So Dragon Ball Z Sparkling Water. You playing this game? I am not. You tell me about what is going on.
I've only briefly played it. We only got code earlier this week, and between balancing that and Zelda and Diablo and everything else, like I've put in a handful of hours, and so far it's cool. It reminds me a lot of the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games from PlayStation 2, which I think is exactly what the developers were going for, to try and bring that era of fighting games back, which kind of means it's like a bit more loose in terms of fighting game mechanics, a bit more unbalanced, but it is all about the presentation and about making you feel like you are these over-the-top characters while, Dragon Ball Z Fighters, the 2D game, looks the part, but it is definitely a Arc System Works, very complex fighting game.
Yeah.
Whereas this is something I can get more behind because it is like, I just want to fuck around as Goku or like mash some buttons and do these crazy combos and a Kamehameha like every now and then and just relive the best moments from the series. And on that aspect, it's like hitting all the right notes for me. You get to play through the events of the now very, very large anime. It's like got Dragon Ball Z stuff. It's got Dragon Ball Z Super stuff. So there's a lot of content.
Yeah.
It's odd. You get these moments where you can kind of like diverge from the story. So a very early example is you are fighting Raditz and he runs away with Gohan, just like in the first 2 episodes of the show. And Piccolo suddenly comes out of nowhere and is like, I want to help you rid the planet of this alien. And, Goku and Piccolo at this point are not friends. They're actually like enemies. So you actually get the choice to accept his help or not, where, in the show, he definitely accepts his help. Like Piccolo and Goku go and fight Raditz. So I chose not to because I wanted to see what happened. And I think the only thing that changed was in the actual fight that I play in, Piccolo's not there to help me because as soon as the fight ended, it reverted back to the canon of the story where Piccolo kills Raditz and Goku. Yeah. So interesting. Not a sort of like divergent story from the show. I think that like takes all your decisions into account, but an interesting way to change up some of the moments, I guess.
Yeah.
There's also some oddities where I'm sure you saw in the footage now, like Goku was fighting Raditz and he basically like exhausted his life bar, got to 0, and the game just kind of stops.
Yeah.
Like both of the characters just stop mid-air, stare at each other, nothing happens, you get experience points, whatever, and then it cuts to a cutscene, and the cutscene is like Raditz on the verge of killing Goku, and it's like, well, that's not how that fight played out, but sure. So yeah, there's a bit of a disconnect between the actual gameplay and the story that it's trying to tell. But other than that, the fighting is really cool. You can get close and far from enemies very, very quickly. You can pull off abilities with just a few button presses, which I appreciate. And it's all about like balancing your meters, like balancing how much energy you have, balancing your distance between enemies and how much power they have, because all of that ties into like what counters you can do, when you can do counters, what abilities you can pop off. And that becomes really important when enemies are kind of like countering you left, right, and center. Like if you have not kept up your like charge meter, you won't be able to pull off the same counters and they'll very quickly take you out.
Yeah.
So I'm still figuring out the nuances between all of those, that sort of balancing act and all the moves that you have access to, because the game doesn't really do a good job of tutorializing that at the beginning. You kind of have to hop into the training mode and see what's there. But once you start messing around, even with just the basic moves, you can do all sorts of cool stuff. Like you can do instant transmission to get behind enemies and chain that with some like really big attacks. You can hold down some buttons for more charged attacks, but if you let go at certain times, they do different things. Like one of the coolest interactions I've had is if you hold down the attack button, you'll do like a move where, like you really knock someone hard and they fly through a mountain or something and the mountain gets decimated. But if you let go of that button at the right time in the middle of that like charging up, you will do the exact same move, but you will teleport behind them before you do it. So it will subvert any sort of block they have going, anticipating that. And that just feels good because it's rewarding like a timing-based thing in a very frantic fight.
Yeah.
And there's lots of little flourishes like that, which I think are just really fun. And it doesn't require, I think, super in-depth fighting game knowledge. Like, I'm not that sort of player. I had to spend some time in the training mode just to kind of get to grips with what options I had while fighting. But after that, I was kind of just like enjoying my time, just button mashing a bit, kind of thinking a little bit, and re-enjoying a story that I've rewatched multiple times in my life. So from that aspect, it's really good. It also looks phenomenal. I think it looks the part.
Yeah, visually, it's so interesting because it's got the exact look of the show, right? But it still looks modern. Like the arena looks like, just any 3D modern fighting game arena, but still with the style of Dragon Ball. But then the characters themselves look just like they've ripped from the cartoon, but like very vibrant cutouts, contrasted so strong against that background. It just looks good. It's basically what I'm getting at.
It really captures Akira Toriyama's style, but obviously it has to be 3D, which gives it a bit more depth. But the color palette, the shading, the cell shading, it just looks really, really good. And I appreciate that a lot. It's also got in a year where menus are such a big thing, especially in the context of Metaphor ReFantazio, I think it's got such a cool main menu because every tab you go between, it's Goku hopping between like different scenes and parties of characters. So like at the beginning, he's just chilling in the city with like his family and Bulma and Vegeta, and then you toggle over to the settings menu or like I can't remember. There's so many different like menu transitions. One of them, you're in like King Kai's palace and Shenron is there, and then the other you're in this like room with this character. I can't remember his name, but he's from Super. He looks like this little blue alien. It's just cool. Like, it's a very dynamic way to present a main menu, which seems like a very small thing, but I appreciate the sort of care to that because, again, if you're a fan of this property, it's the sort of things that you'd appreciate.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm keen to play more. I already got my ass handed to me by Gorilla Vegeta, which seems to be a very big problem on the internet. Like, even the developers are like, you can put down the difficulty, it's fine. It goes to show that not everything is balanced, but that often works more in your favor than not. So in the instances where it doesn't, just, it's fine. Lower the difficulty, get past that, go back. There's a lot of content here. I mean, if you're just playing through Goku's story alone, there's shit tons, but there's also, you can play through a Vegeta story, a Goku Black story, a Frieza story. There's a lot going on here. So I think if you just really need to fix the Dragon Ball Z, this will keep you going for quite a while, I think.
Sorry if this is a dumb question, but there is online multiplayer, I presume, like fighting each other.
Yes,
okay.
There is. Yeah, I've seen some videos of I know Blessing from Kind of Funny is having a great time online with this, and
it's game of the year.
Yeah, it's nuts. He's a fighting game freak. So the fact that he's finding tons of depths in these mechanics shows that it does exist there.
Yeah.
And I like that I don't have to engage with that to enjoy myself here, but I'm glad that the people who do want to get really nitty gritty and deep with the stuff are finding it. That's a really good balance to strike.
Nice. Looks cool.
Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, it's good.